example of why I left the Times. I didn't actually have any pieces changed. What happened was, one of my stories, which was meant to be the lead on the shooting down of an Iranian aircraft in 1988 by a US destroyer called the Vincennes, was simply taken out of paper, disappeared altogether. Because my story said I'd gone to the air traffic controllers at Dubai, which it was talking to as it was shut down. And I said, what actually happened? Said, the American crew and the captain were just panicking. One of them was trying to look up whether there should be any civil airliners overhead. And the airline timetable fell off the desk as the ship was maneuvering to avoid Iranian speedboats. That was what happened. So I wrote the full story. I even got the quotes from the captain of the Vincennes saying, fire, fire. This destroyer was called Robo Cruiser, which shows what the other US naval craft. And I rang up that night and said, where is it? It's not in the paper. Oh, it must be lack of space, Bob. And I didn't believe it. And the next day, I rang the editor of The Independent, which was already functioning, and said, got a place for me on your paper. And that's the real reason. I didn't know at that stage that the background was that the editor, who was called Charles Wilson, was so frightened of Murdoch that he simply wouldn't publish the story, because what Murdoch wanted was a story which said it was a suicide bomber who was going to crash his civilian aircraft onto the American destroyer. We might take that slightly more seriously these days, but anyway, I thought it was rubbish, and it was, because I met the brother later on. In fairness, the captain, when he retired, wrote a book in which he quoted all his mistakes, and they were exactly as my story had it, but the Times didn't want it. That is what had happened to the Times of London. But not to the Irish Times, thanks God. So one of the only good Timeses on this side of the Atlantic. There's not many on the other side, by the way. I'm not the only person who still believes that you should go out the story, that our job is to get out there, even if it's dangerous, and check it out. I'll give you a very good example of this. I'm working at the moment on a series about honour killing. The idea I had was it would be, the scourge of Islam, what Muslims do not talk about, along with lesbianism, homosexuality, gays, whatever. So I did a whole series of trips to Pakistan, to Turkey, Gaza, or Lebanon I live in anyway, and then I went down to Jordan and to Egypt. And for me, honour killing is always a 3-paragraph story. A 27-year-old woman was stabbed to death by her brother because she was believed to have had a liaison, etc., with the taxi man or whatever it may be, and had dishonoured the family. What was very interesting to me was that once I got to Pakistan and started inquiring, of course it wasn't that simple. The 3 paragraphs were deeply misleading. First of all, I found some terrible stories. In Pakistan, I went to see a lawyer who runs a women's shelter. A woman from Peshawar, which is in the northwest Frontier province, she had fallen out with her husband, wanted to have a divorce and marry the man she loved, who was a soldier in the Pakistani army, who was an officer. Anyway, her family set out to murder her. She got to Lahore, which is where I went to see the lawyer who was looking after her in the women's shelter. And when she got to Lahore, she was told, you're perfectly safe here, and you can come and work in my office, she said, in the lawyer's office. Then a call comes in from her mother, who's in Peshawar. I want to see my daughter, I want to give her her divorce papers. She can marry this other man, it's all right. So the young woman was taken back to the lawyer's office. The lawyer, whom I was sitting opposite, she told me the story, said that she told the security guard outside, check that the woman doesn't have a pistol. And he did, by using another woman to check it. But she arrived with another man whom he didn't check. They walked straight into the lawyer's office. The young woman was there. As she stood up to greet her mother, the man shot her in the face twice and blew her brains out. I've sat in the same chair. Later on, the woman went to the police to complain that the woman lawyer, was trying to kidnap her daughter. The word now is that the mother, who obviously arranged her daughter's killing, has gone completely mad. Reasonable effort should be made to ensure news and current affairs programmes are balanced and impartial. She said, the land concerned, she's talking about the West Bank, remains the subject of protracted and deep dispute, and therefore the reasonable viewer who considers that the term Palestinian land indicates a lack of impartiality. So in other words, the West Bank's in Israel. A subsequent internal memo from the news boss, Paul Cutler, I love bosses, we always have boffins as well, don't we? Told journalists and editors to take care in the language used to describe the occupied territories. The status of Israeli settlements on the West Bank is controversial, she said. Controversial is a real scream word. It means, well, don't believe what you're told. Bob Fisk is sometimes, by the way, a controversial reporter. He's doing this, basically. And is the subject of ongoing negotiations between Israel and the Palestinians. When discussing territory, this is an official memo, when discussing territory whose status remains a subject of negotiation, care must be taken to ensure that the language used is neutral and cannot be interpreted as being favourable to one side over another. The best way to achieve this is to describe the geographic location of the settlements, e.g. Israeli settlements on the West Bank. You see, it deletes the word Palestinian. Now, I know this cub journalism. I was always taught on the Newcastle Evening Chronicle, you give equal space to equal side. Now, that's okay if you're reporting a football match between the Live Spartans and Newcastle United. And it's okay if you're writing about a new motorway, a public inquiry. You do the local authorities' point of view and then you give the protesters' point of view. But the Middle East is not a football match. It is a bloody tragedy. And I think it's our job as journalists to be neutral on the side of those who suffer. It is not a football match. But you see how here, neutral journalism was used to distort SBS's coverage. Fortunately, we have, and the Australia-Israel review editor said that she was entirely in favour of having this neutrality of push. And there's a guy called Lynch, director of Sydney University's Centre for Peace and Conflict Studies, said it was a lamentable ignorance of the facts that SBS can't use the words. He said, no reputable expert in international law, international relations, or my own field of peace and conflict studies would dispute that the land in question is Palestinian. One of the main points of this story is that the occupied territories of East Jerusalem and the West Bank are Palestinians, and SBS journalists should be allowed to explain it. The BBC have even more complicated laws. But this is how you do it. You see, ever since Colin Powell, when he was Secretary of State, said to all American diplomats that are occupied, they're disputed, almost all the American press stopped calling them occupied and started calling them disputed. And this is where the whole problem starts, you see, because then you diminish your reporting further. It's not a war, even though, by the way, when I see it, it's bigger and longer than the Berlin Wall. It's a fence, like you have at the bottom of the garden. If you had this at the bottom of your garden, you'd be blowing it up with explosives. And then we have the other one, which is Israeli settlements or neighbourhoods. Not colonies, you see, because that gives the game away. They are colonising the Israelis against all international law, somebody else's land, which does not belong to them. And that is why the peace process keeps having put back on track, because the line has disappeared. The railway line is no longer there. And those colonies are getting bigger and bigger as we speak. And shamefully for the Palestinians, those Palestinian workers who are building them for the Israelis. Again, we use surge, as in tsunami, a surge of soldiers. We're bringing more soldiers, tens of thousands into the Muslim world. And we call it a surge. But a surge, you see, is an unstoppable power like the tsunami. It's going to be okay. They're not. They're reinforcements because they're losing the war. That's why they're bringing in more soldiers. And still we believe, but we may not, I certainly don't, but we, the elites of the world, and Tom Friedman, who is supposed to be at the frontier of journalism in America, they believe it's still worthwhile. It's rubbish. You're not being told the truth. We are not being told